This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. And on the heels of Shavuot, the holiday of the giving of the Torah of Mount Sinai, I thought we would go through a very cryptic and interesting Gemara, Talmud, which tells the story of Moshe ascending to the heavens on Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. The pushback, we're good. The pushback that he got, not pushing Miri back, but the pushback that Moshe got from the angels and the debate that went up and back on that. So let us begin. This is the Babylonian Talmud. The Gemara is Shabbat 88b. Amr Shmuel Levi, have it both in Hebrew and English. Shmuel Levi said, Bisha'ah, at the time, Sha'ala Moshe Lamarom, that Moshe ascended up onto high to receive the Torah to Mount Sinai. Amru Malachei Hasharet, Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The ministering angels said before Hashem, it's interesting, Malachei Hasharet, Sharet can mean serving, like Sherut, but also Malachei Hasharet means those that are contending somewhat, because this was a bit contentious, right? When we on Friday night when we sing Shalom Aleichem, so the Shalom Aleichem that we sing, that welcomes the Malachei Hasharet, the ministering angels. That's the first stanza. Stanzas 2, 3, and 4 are Malachei Hashalom, are the angels of peace. Why? Because it's based on another Gemara in Shabbos, which says that when a person goes home on a Friday night, they are accompanied by two angels, one hoping to give a blessing that the table is set, it should be set the next week also. The other are coming to say the table is not set, it shouldn't be set the next week. So at that point, they are contending angels. Once they come and they see the beautiful Shabbat table all adorned, they become Malachei HaShalom. They become then the angels of peace. See, here they were Malachei Sharet. They were a bit contentious. And they said, Ribono Shalola, Master of the universe, Mali Yulud Isha Beinenu. What is a person born from a woman doing here amongst us? What is a mortal? What is a physical human being doing amongst us? This is the spiritual realm. And the Torah is pure spirituality. So what is this Yulud Isha? What is this human being doing amongst us? Amar Lahen, God responded, L'kabel Torah ba. He has come to receive the Torah. Amru lefanav, they said before God, Chemda genuza, shegenuza lach shameyo b'shivim ha'arba dorot. We discussed this last time, I think. We had a tangent on this last time, right? 974 generations. It's been put away for so long. Kodem shenivra olam, prior to the world being created as we know it now. Earlier creations, dinosaurs, Neanderthals, who knows what. Ata mavakesh litna lebasar v'dam. This is a spiritual, purely spiritual enterprise. You're going to give it to basar v'dam. Basar v'dam means flesh and blood. And elsewhere we have this idea. We human beings have a tremendous capacity. We have a capacity for growth. Why do we have the capacity for growth? Capacity for transformation. Why is that? Because we have decisions to make. Because we have challenges to overcome. Because we don't have this absolute clarity of the spirituality as the angels, as those in the spiritual realm have absolute clarity. Actually, when we say the Kedusha, we say Nikadesh Shimcha Ba'olam, we should sanctify your name in the world. Kashem Shemati Shimoto B'Shmei Marom. In the same way that they do it up in the heights, Kakatuva Yad Nevi'ech, as it's written by your prophets, the Karazels every Amah, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. That's what the Navi Isaiah, The prophet Isaiah, Yisroel Navi, he heard these angels calling out, holy, holy, holy. So we, when we say HaKadusha, we say, we will sanctify your name in the world in the same manner as they. So we try to be angel-like, but in fact, we'll soon see we are beyond where they are at. We can go beyond them because they don't make decisions. At the same time, they look at us like we're crazy. What are you deciding about? What are you deliberating about? What are the two sides that you're actually entertaining? They who have the absolute clarity, for them, there is no question mark. How could you be deliberating? The very fact that we are deliberating, they see that as something that is lacking in humankind. So you're going to give this holy Torah, this Torah of all of its kedusha, all of its holiness, this spiritual blueprint of the world. You're going to give it to a bunch of basar v'dam, flesh and blood, people who are so confused and so unsure and always debating and self-debating and should I or shouldn't I, being pulled to the spiritual, being pulled to the physical and material, and always having all this confusion. Ma enosh, kitis karenu. What is mankind that you should be mindful of him? Uben Adam, and the Son of Man, kitif kedenu, that you should even think of him. Hashem, Adonenu, Hashem our Master, Ma'adir Shimcha, your name is so glorious over all the land. Tanei hodcha, asher tanah hodcha al hashamayim. Where should your glory be given? Al hashamayim, up in the heavens. Don't send the Torah down into this material, physical world with all of its issues. Amalo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, Hechazir lahen teshuva. Give an answer. Hi, Judy. How are you? Hechazir lahen teshuva. You've got to give an answer, meaning, right? There's no freebies over here. You want the Torah. You want to receive the Torah for the Jewish people. You've got to advocate for it. Meaning, unless you can explain why you should have it, then maybe you shouldn't have it. You've got to be able to clarify and advocate over here. Hashem said to them, Hachzir lem tshuva, give them an answer. Amar lefanav, Moshe said, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, mityarei ani, I am afraid, Shema yisrafuni behevel pihem, lest they will burn me with the breath of their mouths. What does that mean? They didn't have scope?
Anger?
Huh?
Anger?
I'm not sure if it's anger.
The power of their spirituality, that light was such a high frequency that
Okay, right?
it's like,
In other words, right,
Like
the Hevel PM, the fire of their mouths would be the absolute, right? Fire is pure. There's nothing else, right? Anything that gets in there gets consumed, right? Breath is a part of us that is not physical. So the Hevel PM, the breath of their mouths, meaning that it's pure fire. It's pure spirituality. How can I argue with them? What can I say? They're making a valid point. We are physical. They are the Hevel PM. They are this pure, unadulterated spirituality. What does Hashem say? Amar lo, Hashem said to Moshe, Echoz, grab hold, bikisei chvodi, grab hold of the throne of my glory, the chazor lahen teshuva, and give them an answer. So on a simplest level, okay, I got your back, right? You hold on to my throne. You don't have to be afraid of being burned by the Hevel PM. But clearly, in this cryptic line, there is a lot that is being said. So when we speak about a kisei hakavod, the throne of God's glory, right? What does that mean? Right? We believe that God has no corporeality. There is no physicality. So the Torah and our sages throughout use the concept of anthropomorphism, which is attributing human qualities to that which is not human. And we do this throughout the entire Torah. Throughout the Torah, we have this. We have God, God's eyes, God's ears, God's outstretched arm, right? And the outstretched arm is God's power, God's involvement in the world. God's eyes is God's awareness. So, right, an example that I gave, right, it says in the Torah a number of times that God remembered, right? Now, God remembering, that doesn't really make sense on face value. If I forgot something, then I can remember it. But our understanding of God is that he'll never forget anything. So what does it mean God remembered? But once again, that's anthropomorphism, meaning when we remember something, what happens? We stop doing what we're doing and we transition to doing something different. When we remember, I'm so sorry, I just remembered what happened. I stopped giving the class and I just remembered that I have to. No, I don't really just, right? But I remembered we switch gears. When we remember, we switch gears. So God's remembering, Ramban says, whether it's by Noah and the flood, or it's by the Jews in Egypt and Mitzrayim, when God remembered means he is going to now switch gears. He's been acting a certain way, and now he's going to act in a different manner. So that's always how we understand these anthropomorphic terms. So let's look at the throne, Kisei HaKavod, the throne of God's honor, the throne of glory. Throne, a seat. What is a seat doing for each and every one of us who are sitting right now?
Supporting us?
Supporting us. It's holding us up. Kisei HaKavod would then mean that which holds up the honor of God. What our sages teach us, what comprises this Kisei HaKavod, this throne of God's glory? The neshamot, the souls of tzaddikim, of the righteous. What does that mean? So if you take it literally, what, God's sitting on a bunch of righteous souls? No. What holds up God's glory? The righteous. The righteous through the acts that we do, the decisions that we take and we make and we put into practice. That is what holds up God's glory, more than that of the angels. Because if the angels just are almost mechanical, if they have to do, they're programmed, right? So then that's not going to give much glory, right? If I were to program a little robot to sit in my office and say, Ciner, you're a good-looking guy. Ciner, you're very smart.
Yeah.
Ciner, you're this, right? That's not going to give me all that much glory because I programmed it, right? What's that saying about me, right? But when Hashem has free-willed beings that hold him up, so to speak, that choose in very difficult, challenging, personal, national issues, times, and choose to align ourselves with God, to follow God, that is kavod, that is honor. So Hashem said to Moshe, Echoz, grab hold, Bikisei kavodi, Hold on to my kisei hakavod, to the throne of my glory. Meaning, there's a good answer that you can give them. Yes, you're afraid of the Hevel PM. You're afraid of the pure, unadulterated spirituality, which has a certain level to it, a certain ma'ala to it, but also has a certain chisaron, also has a certain lacking to it. Yes, it's pure, it's fire, it's unadulterated, but there are no decisions that go into it. Hold on to my kisei hakavod, the chazor lahen teshuva, and give them an answer. Shenemar, as it says, ma'achez penei kisei, take hold of the front of the throne, Harshez alav anano. Literally, he spread upon him his cloud. And Rabbi Nachum explains this to me. Malamed, we learn, Sheperesh shakai miziv shchinato va'anano alav. That God spread part of his divine presence and the glow of his shchina and his cloud upon Moshe. So, on the basic level, this was protection. On the deeper level, he was letting Moshe know, this is your avenue of advocacy. This is the line of argument that you should bring up. Amar Lafanav. So Moshe then started to speak and said, Ribono Shel Olam, right? God is the judge over here, and he and the angels are debating. He said, Master of the universe, Torah sha'ata noten li, the Torah that you are going to give to me, ma ketiv ba, what's written in there? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God, asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim, that I brought you out from the land of Egypt. Amar lehen, he then turned to the angels and said to them, Lemitzrayim yaradatem, did you go down to Egypt? Lefaro hishtabadatem, were you enslaved to Pharaoh? Torah lama tehelachem, what's the Torah for you? Why should the Torah be for you? It's not relevant for you. Shuv, further. Moshe said, Ma ketivba, what's written in there? Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim. You should not have any other gods, any other deities. Bein hagoyim atem shruyin. Do you live amongst the nations of the world? Sha'ovdim, we turn the page to 89a. Sha'ovdim avodah zarah, who worship idolatry, who choose or conjure other deities and worship them. Shuv, further, ma ketivba, what does it say in the Torah? Zachor et yom HaShabbat l'kadsho. Remember the day of Shabbat to make it holy. Don't do malacha. Ain't gonna work on Saturday. Klum atem osim malacha. Do you do any work? She'atem tzrichin shuvut, that you will then desist from that on the Sabbath, on Shabbat? Shuv, furthermore, ma ketivba, what's written there? Lo tisa, do not lift up God's name in vain. When would a person lift up and swear in God's name in vain? If I'm involved in a business deal, I swear to God, I'm giving you the deal of a lifetime. Right? For you, I do special. I swear to God, you'll never see this again. Right? It's only today. Tomorrow, the price is going to go up. You have to get that urgency going, right? Right? That's when people would be tempted to invoke God's name. Masao matan yesh beinechem. Are there business dealings amongst you? Shuv, ma ketivba. Furthermore, what's written in there? Kabed, honor, et avicha, ve'et imecha, honor your father, honor your mother. Ava em yesh lachem. You angels, do you have moms and dads? Shuv, further, ma ketivba, what's written in there? Lo tirtzach, do not murder. Lo tinaf, do not commit adultery. Lo tignov, do not steal. Kina yesh beinechem? Is there jealousy amongst you? Is there rivalry? Which is what leads to murder, adultery, thievery. Is there jealousy? Is there rivalry amongst you? Yetzer hara yesh beinechem? Is there the temptation of the evil inclination? Do you have that? Miyad hodu lo la kadosh baruch hu. The angels admitted to God, yes, the man's made a good point. Yes, he's right. Shenemar, as it says, Hashem Adonenu, Hashem our God, Ma'adir Shimcha, how glorious is your name. But it doesn't say V'ilu, whereas that line of Tnei Hotcha L'Shamayim, give you glory on the heavens, lo ketiv. That is not written. Someone's phone, is that keeps going off? Someone? Oh. Whereas Tnei Hotcha L'Shamayim, at that point they no longer said, give you glory al Hashamayim, up on the heavens. So the question is, the pressing question is, what were they thinking? What were they thinking when they said, give your glory, keep the Torah in Shamayim? Open up the book, read what it says, and clearly it's talking to physical, material, human beings. It's talking about experiences that we had, will have. It's talking about temptations and challenges that we have. What were the angels thinking? So there are different approaches. There are different approaches. The one that speaks to me the most is based on a Ramban, Nachmanides, in his introduction to his Perush, his explanation on the Torah. Ramban has a very, very fundamental, foundational Perush on the Torah. And in his introduction, he explains, right, the Torah is referred to as existing before creation, black fire on white fire, right? Whatever these concepts mean. But it's not something that is limited in any way or even necessarily directed to our kind of coarse world that we live in. We know that we look in the Torah, so there are no nekudot, there's no vowels in the Torah. Once you vowelize the Torah, you're limiting it to a certain term, a certain explanation. Without the vowels there, we say Shivim Panim LeTorah. There are 70 facets, 70 faces, 70 facets to the Torah. All these different levels. There's Pardes, Pshat, the simple meaning, Remez, that which is hinted to, Drash, that which we can extract, Sod, the completely spiritual, secret level that the Torah operates on. There are all these different levels to it. And once we have vowels, once we have, so to speak, the commas and the periods, which we don't have, but we do have. The truck, the way that we lane it, the way that we sing it, tells us how to group which words together, where there's a pause, where there's a pause in the middle, where is there an end of a sentence. So all of these things are not in the Torah itself, and that gives it a much greater breadth. The Ramban says that the primordial Torah, as it existed in Shamayim, in the heavens, didn't have any spaces at all. Rather, it was just a string of letters. As we have the Torah, but like our Torah doesn't have vowels and doesn't have end of sentences, there it didn't even have ends of words. And therefore, the Torah could be broken up in many different ways and would therefore have a very different message. It would be talking to different audiences about different topics, different ideas, different concepts. And therefore, what the angels were saying, why break it down in a manner that it gets so coarse, so physical, so material? Don't sleep with someone else's wife. Really? Is that how we want to break down this Torah into that's what it's talking about? That's who it's addressing? Don't steal, don't murder. Really? That was the complaint. That was the claim of the angels. This is pure. This is holy. This is Hevel PM. This is the smoke, the fire, the pure fire coming out of our mouths. This is the spiritual realm, the purely spiritual realm. And you're going to take this Torah, the spiritual Torah, and you're going to break it down in a way that it talks to the coarser spirit of human beings. That was the claim they were making. If that's the case, so I understand now that even though we look at the Torah and they say, what were they thinking? Now we can understand what it was that they were thinking. But now the question comes back, so what was Moshe's answer? Moshe said, yes, it says enslaved to Pharaoh. Were you enslaved? Honor parents. Do you have parents? Don't murder. Do you have jealousy? Don't. What was Moshe's response? Their whole point was, don't break it down in such a manner that it's talking in such a vulgar way, that it's addressing such untamed human passions. Their whole point was, don't break it down in a way that that's what it's talking about. So what was Moshe's answer? Yeah, but it says this, it says that, it says parents, it says stealing, it says murder, it says jealousy. That's exactly our point. Yet, somehow, this was the winning argument that Moshe made. Right? We said over there, Miyad hodu lo la kodesh baruch hu, we said. They agreed. The man's got a point. Yes, the Torah should be given. So what? How does this answer their claim? So what Moshe was saying is, yes, granted. The Torah could be written, could be broken down in a way that it's all pure spirituality. Actually, we know we have a halacha, practical halacha. If one letter in the Sefer Torah is off, is missing, is not written correctly, it's co-joined incorrectly with another letter, one letter is off, what's the din? Pasul. You can't use that Torah until it will be properly corrected. Why is that? The Torah, on a certain level, is nothing but Shemot Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's God's name after God's name after God's name after God's name after God's name. It is pure, pure, pure spirituality. Now we understand, if I would say to you, yeah, the Torah is missing the Yud in God's name. Oh, I understand that's a problem, right? But the Mem in Menashe, no. Because strung together, the Torah is nothing but God's name after God's name after God's name after God's name. So Moshe said, my dear Malachim, gentlemen of the spiritual realm, angels, you're right. The Torah could be broken down in a manner that it's not going to be applicable. It's not going to be talking to human beings and some of our baser instincts. However, God, remember, had given Moshe a little elbow over there. This is the way you should answer. God had told Moshe, grab hold of the kisei hakavod. Grab hold of the throne of my glory. And what holds up God's glory? The neshamot of tzaddikim. Why do the neshamot of tzaddikim hold up God's glory? Because they have challenges, because they live in a physical, material world with all of its pulls and all of its enticements. And yet they, almost all the time, no one's perfect, almost all the time make the right decisions. So Moshe said, yes, you're right. It could be broken down in a manner that purely spiritual. But then it won't be changing. It will not give that ability for transformation, for growth. We mentioned before that different prophecies that a person is called a holech, a walker. A malach is called an omeid, a stander. And when we say kedusha, when we say we'll sanctify your name the way they do in the heavens, like the angels in the heavens, what do? We stand with our feet together. Because figuratively, the angels have 1 foot. What does that mean? They have 1 foot. There's no physicality. What it means is they don't vacillate between this way and that way. You don't have, I'm going to go right, I'm going to go left. I don't know where I'm going. Right? They just have that set, clear conviction and direction. And that's very good. If we choose to do that, that's amazing. But when you're programmed to do that, that does not give kavod, that does not give honor to the Creator. And therefore, Moshe was saying, yes, it could be broken down your way, but you don't change. We have the ability to become spiritual. We have that capacity. 1 second, Leah, I'm with you. Right? The Maharal says very beautifully, behema, Hebrew word for an animal. That, he says, is 2 words together. Bet hey, mem hey. Ba, ma. Meaning, what you see is what you get. It looks like a cow, walks like a cow, smells like a cow. That's a cow. That's all you got. That's what it is. It is 100% cow. Whereas human beings are different. Now, it's interesting. We are called Adam, humankind. Right? Now, what's that based on? Oh, we come from the Adamah, from the earth, and God blew into us a neshama, a spirit. So why call us Adam? Call us neshama. Call us ruach. Of the 2, why are we picking the physicality? That should be our name. No, let it be neshama. Neshama. So the Maharal says very beautifully, hey, just turn off the ringer. Just turn off the ringer. So the Maharal says very beautifully, we're called Adam because of the Adamah. What is the nature of the Adamah, of the earth? It is transformative. It is growth, right? You put a little seed into there, and then all of a sudden you've got this incredible tree that grows from there. The earth hasn't been used up. It helps in this transformation. It is transformative. That is what human beings are. That is our essence. Our essence is we are transformative. And we have, and it's so interesting, an animal. I remember I was living in Israel. So there was a shepherd who lived basically in the same community. And I was going for a Shabbos walk with my kids. And we saw a baby goat being born. And it was incredible. It comes out and it has these knobby knees, right? And within a minute, it's, oh my gosh, it's up, right? Within a minute, it's up, right? It's almost born complete. A human being is born very, very incomplete. And from the first moment, we have to become transformative. And that physical transformation is meant to give us a glimpse that we're supposed to be spiritually transformative. That is who and what we are. That's what we are all, B'nai Adam, humankind, earthlings, because we have this transformative capacity. And that's what Moshe said to the angels. Yes, it could be broken down in a different manner, but only when it's broken down in this way does it give that transformative quality, ability. And that is the Kisei HaKavod. And that is the throne of Hashem's glory. Yes, Leah.
I was just wondering, maybe a different reason for the Torah not to be broken into more of a spiritual form or a heavenly form is just we hear simple people. We won't be able to connect to this or to understand that. And we need anyway another layer of sages to explain that to us and break it down to physical terms so we understand that. So maybe God understood it in the first place and just made it more digestible and more understandable to people.
Yes.
We are physical beings.
Right. And certainly God's plan was that it would be given to us, but Moshe needed to recognize that, appreciate that, and to be able to elucidate that, communicate that. You know, whenever if you have a gift, if we don't appreciate what it is, then it will not be properly utilized. Right? And yes, and I agree, right? But the angels were saying, don't sully it. And Moshe said, yes, it is the sullying, the dirtying, so to speak, of it. That is what allows a person to transform, to become different. And that is the ultimate, that is the ultimate kavod. When we have our struggles, when we have our difficulties, when we have our challenges, and we make the right decision, again, no one does that all the time, but when we, majority of the time, make that right decision, that is the greatest kavod that we can give. Yes, Janet.
So, number one, you said the nishmot of the tzaddikim, that even means when you first said it, I had this picture of all the righteous who had already gone to Olam Haba. But you're saying even living tzaddikim, or
I believe so. Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
And then, like in the morning, we say, "For you have returned my soul." You know, modah or modeh. Maybe there's also this being chosen to be Adam rather than neshama, because the baseline that stays stationary is the nefesh guf, and the neshama is the one that takes off and does things every so often.
Okay, so we simply call the nefesh, meaning there is a certain spirituality that I hear what you're saying. So that
the more stable,
the more stable,
or the more
consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
that's why it was conceived.
That's interesting. Another reason that's given, a beautiful reason that's given why we're called Adam, is not because of the Adamah, but because of Adameh. Adameh means I will be similar to. And that is along the same lines that we have the capacity to become God-like. That's the Adameh. Let's see that. Yes, Rav Shlomo.
Thinking this a long time ago. You're talking about the Malachim, the holy ones. What about us regular people?
That's us. Yeah, that's us.
Does this? I know that this applies to us, but the way it's being presented, and it was with no fault to you, is that this is all relegated So the more spiritual.
So this is talking to us.
Yeah.
That every time we study Torah, every mitzvah that we do is transformative. It changes us. I've told this story many times of my walk with a close friend when I was probably 18, 17, 18, I don't know, thereabouts, with Rav Hillel Zaks. And we were walking to Shul, Shabbos afternoon mincha. We had Rav Hillel Zaks is the grandson of the Chafetz Chaim. And my friend and I had this incredible gift of spending a Shabbos with him. And something that was on our minds is, we were getting into the learning, becoming religious, but really like trying to grab every minute to learn more and more. Chill out a little bit, but why be so driven? And out of the clear blue, he said to us, guys, you should know that every single word of Torah that you study, it changes you. It changes your neshama, your soul. Not from an orange to a grapefruit, but from a peanut to a watermelon. But right now, everything's closed over. The Mashiach's going to come, and then it's going to become opened up. And then the light of a person's neshama, soul, is going to go shining out. And then we'll see the importance of every word. And I'll add on every word of Torah, every word of prayer, every word of kindness, every mitzvah, everything that we do transforms us. So I think, Rav Shlomo, the Mechilas Kavodcha, I think this is talking directly to us, to me, and to you, and to everyone here, that the reason the Torah was given to us was for us to become transformed and to recognize that this is something that changes, that can really change a person and really help elevate them, connect them to the eternal, connect them to the spiritual, connect them to God. That's what it's all about. As we always say, every mitzvah is an opportunity for a physical person in the physical world with a physical object to touch that which is spiritual, to touch that which is eternal. And that does not change the angels, but it does change us. And we don't always feel the change, we don't always see the change, but it is something that is transformative. And it was with that argument that the Torah was given to us. Miyad, immediately. Kol echa ve'echa nasa lo ohev, umasa lo davar. Each angel became an admirer, ohev, a lover of Moshe. And that's very interesting. When you're trying to find the truth and you might be wrong, you're arguing one way, the other is arguing the other way, but you recognize that what they're saying is true, so you're not sore about having lost the argument. You love them for showing you the truth. I said before, when I would start learning with a chavrusa, right? A chavrusa is a study partner in yeshiva. And you're arguing, what does it mean? What does it mean? What's the understanding? What's the svara? What's the logic behind it? Right? And I said, listen, let me just tell you something from the ground rules from the start. I said, if we're arguing and I start to raise my voice, that means you're right and I'm wrong. So go in for the kill quick, and then we'll be able to move on, right? The Gemara says, Eit v'hav v'sufa, right? When there's a milchama of Torah, there's love at the end. Why? Because you've reached the conclusion, you've reached your understanding of emet, of truth. So therefore they became an oev, and they gave him a gift. Shenem, as it says, alita l'marom, you ascended up high. Shavita shevi, you took some captives. Lakachta matanot ba'adam, you took gifts, ba'adam, on account of man, meaning what? Pischar shikra'ucha adam, lakachta matanot, in the reward that they called you man, and you showed how that was in fact your ace up your sleeve, you received gifts. Va'af malach hamavet masalo davar, and even the angel of death gave them a gift. What was that? Shenemar, vayitein et hakator ve'chaper ala'am. There was a time that there was a plague that was happening. And Aaron came and he took the ketoret, the incense, and that atoned, and the plague stopped. V'omer, and it says, V'yamnod, he stood bein hametim bein hachayim, between those who were living and those who had died, and the plague stopped. Ilav ta'amal mi'avayada. Had that not been shared, then how would he have known? It's interesting. Ketoret is, right, the sense of smell is the least physical of our senses. We have the sense of touch, right? Sense of taste. All of that is directly physical. We have even our sense of vision. What's happening is we are seeing light that's being reflected off all of these physical objects, and our brain is able to incredibly, absolutely incredible. I mean, that blows me away whenever I think about this. Is able to decipher all of those different reflections of light, but it's coming off of something physical, right? And even the sound of the senses of hearing, right? So we have a little hammer and anvil over there that's pounding away. You keep hearing my annoying voice. That's what's happening over there, right? Right. The sense of smell is right. It just wafts in little gas molecules that wafts in, and we're able to do. So the gift that he gave him was the ketoret, right, which is the incense, which is a way to jump up into that whole realm of the ruchani, or a way to bring about a cessation of that, crossing that threshold between the physical and the spiritual. But that was
Rabbi?
the gift that they received. Yes.
You had said that Adam is named because it's Adamah and it's transformative for humankind in general, has that property, and Jews in particular are called in the Torah Ivrim, and Ivri is also
awesome.
Connotes that transformation.
Nice. Right, Ivri, from the Avar Nar, from one bank of the river over to the other. Good. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here. Yasher koach, everybody. I think next week we're going to start a 4-part series. Number 1, heaven. Number 2, hell. Number 3, reincarnation. Number 4, Tchiat HaMetim, which is the revival, the resuscitation. Okay, so we're going to start that next week. Yeah, but I thought this would be a good fitting end for Shavuot holiday, as we take Shavuot with us out into the future. Yes, Lev.
For some reason, we're avoiding word free will. Is it a deliberate or
No.
No,
I should.
All this implied.
No, yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, it's our free will. 100%. I'm all in on that. Yes, Judy.
So that was what I was going to say. Actually, was the part that isn't said out loud is why it's vulgar. It's vulgar because it is the subject matter itself is vulgar because you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But if God creates, if Hashem creates everybody differently, you have to assume that not everyone will have the same capacity to understand things in the same way. If you spell it out, then you don't run the risk of, well, I thought that meant.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
I thought coding was just if it was my brother, not my.
Right.
And so to prevent there being vulgarity, you have to outline
Define
it first
Yeah.
in order to avoid it. If you don't
Yeah.
know what the danger is, you don't know what
Yes.
to
Yes.
prevent.
100%. But yes, and there needs to exist the possibility in order for us to have. There's only free will when there are options.
When it's a choice.
Yeah, we have the
Because
choice.
otherwise, people become their own god in their own mind,
Yeah,
and society becomes the worshipped thing.
it can be. Yeah. Yes, Janet.
Since we're on, this is completely non sequitur, except that it is the tail of the boat. Okay. So during the Shavuot study, I read that the first Redeemer, the so-called Ploni Almoni, that seems to get a bad rap. One postscript said that he said once he found out that there was a woman involved, it might have been any woman, not just Ruth, that he saw his inheritance was threatened because he was already married.
So the way that that's
understood.
understood is that his inheritance, meaning his name going forward, would be ruined, because at that point the teaching, Moab is not allowed to enter into the Kahal, right? The teaching of Moavi velo Moavit, it's only the male Moabs who can't, but that was contested, and therefore it's very, very ironic. He didn't want to lose his name, right, by marrying Ruth. What's he known as? Ploni Almoni. That's like John Doe. That's his name.
Poskim said that he was concerned that any other woman and this current wife would not get along, and that was part of it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
You've never heard
No. It wouldn't be posted. It would be mafarshim, right? Right. It's not a psak halacha over here, right? It wouldn't be a posek. I'm not sure. Certainly, the classic understanding is that he was afraid to get involved with Rus because of her, at that time, questionable status.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever the case is, he demurred, and Boaz stepped forward. Yeah. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here. Yeshkoach, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rabbi.
In person and online.
Thank you, Rabbi.